It seems like every time you open a news website or turn on the TV these days, it's all about the same two things.
Yeah.
Secure energy supplies and cutting carbon emissions.
Right, right.
And right smack in the middle of all that,
Yeah.
you've got nuclear energy kind of making a comeback,
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
renewed sense of purpose.
It's really interesting to see how after, a period where maybe caution was understandable,
Yeah.
there's this growing recognition of nuclear power as a
Mhm.
key part of the solution,
Yeah.
to both those challenges, energy and climate security.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not just like, oh, we're going back to the old ways.
Yeah.
The technology has really evolved.
Yeah.
And I think the geopolitical stuff we've seen recently
Yeah.
really underscores how important it is to have energy sources that are reliable
Right.
and, not subject to all these external pressures.
Totally. And that brings us to what we're diving into today.
Okay.
You shared this report with me.
Yeah.
Really insightful report.
I thought it was pretty fascinating.
It focuses on one country
Yeah.
that has some pretty bold nuclear ambitions.
Hmm.
India.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they're not just thinking about it. They're making it like
Yeah.
a central part of their whole energy strategy.
That's exactly what the report kind of lays out.
Yeah.
It highlights how strategically important nuclear energy is for India,
Yeah.
for their long-term growth and everything. And
Right.
it also kind of underscores why, a lot of investors around the world are paying close attention to all this.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So our mission today is
Okay.
to really unpack all of this, India's nuclear ambition.
Right.
We want to understand, what's driving this?
Yeah.
What are these cutting-edge technologies that they're working on?
Mhm.
What are the investment opportunities?
Yeah.
And, of course, what are the challenges they're going to face along the
Right.
way?
It's not going to be a smooth ride,
No, never is.
but definitely a lot of potential there.
Yeah, for sure.
So, ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
All right, let's start with the core of India's nuclear strategy.
Okay, sounds good.
What are they actually trying to do here?
So let's start with the numbers, right?
Yeah, the headline figures.
The report lays out these, mind-blowing goals for India's nuclear capacity.
Yeah, transformative goals.
Yeah, a massive shift in their energy landscape.
Totally. I mean, they've set this target of getting to 100 gigawatts
Wow.
of nuclear power capacity by 2047.
Okay, hold on. 100
gigawatts.
gigawatts.
Now think about it. They're currently at 8.8 gigawatts.
Okay, that's
More than 10 times. Way more than a 10-fold increase.
wow.
To put that in perspective, that's like the entire nuclear capacity of France,
Okay.
which is a huge nuclear power country.
Yeah.
So this is like a major shift for India in
Yeah.
terms of their energy mix and maybe even, how they position themselves on the world stage.
Right, like a major clean energy provider, potentially. Exactly.
I mean, that scale, it's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it's hard to even imagine.
And this isn't just like some far-off dream,
Right.
right? I mean, there's some pretty big near-term goals in there, too.
Absolutely, yeah. The near-term plans are pretty concrete.
Okay.
They're aiming for 22,480 megawatts
Okay.
by 2031-32.
All right, so within the next decade.
Yeah, less than a
Wow.
decade.
Wow.
And to get there, they're planning to build 10 new reactors.
10
new reactors,
Whoa, okay.
adding about 8 gigawatts of capacity
Oh, but-
spread out across different states.
And that's a lot to accomplish in that time frame.
Yeah, it's a very serious undertaking.
Yeah, and the report also mentioned all these international partnerships.
Right.
Helping them, speed things up.
Yeah, they're collaborating with some of the top nuclear countries,
Yeah.
like the U.S. and France,
Okay.
to tap into their technology and expertise.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's smart.
It's crucial for India to, get access to the latest reactor designs.
Safety protocols, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's going to help them move a lot faster
For sure.
than if they were just trying to do it all on their own.
Yeah, and one thing that I thought was really interesting was all the talk about
Yeah.
these smaller reactors,
Uh-huh.
the Farad small reactors, or BSRs,
Yep.
and the small modular reactors, SMRs.
Right.
It sounds like they're going to be really important for modernizing their nuclear setup.
Yeah, you picked up on something really important there.
Okay.
These smaller designs, they're seen as essential
Yeah.
for scaling up nuclear power more quickly
Yeah.
and for putting it in more places.
Okay.
Not just these big, massive power plants,
Yeah.
but industrial sites, remote areas.
Right.
We'll dig into the specifics of SMRs a bit later,
Okay.
but they're modular.
Right.
And they're a lot quicker to deploy.
Hmm.
So they're a very appealing option for India.
Okay, so we've got the ambition,
Right.
we've got the strategy. But how is the Indian government actually making this happen?
Right. It's got to be more than just words.
Yeah, exactly.
So they've launched this thing called the Nuclear Energy Mission for Viksit Bharat,
Okay.
which is, pretty strong signal that
Yeah.
they're serious about this.
From the top.
Yeah, from the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
And they've put their money where their mouth is.
Okay, come suck.
They've allocated
Ah.
20,000 crore,
Okay.
which is like $2.4 billion,
Wow.
specifically for research and development
Okay.
in small modular reactor technology.
That's a serious chunk of change.
It's a major investment,
Yeah.
showing how much they're prioritizing this.
Yeah, and it seems like they're really trying to get the private sector more involved.
Right, which is a bit of a change for India.
Yeah.
Historically, nuclear energy has been pretty much a government thing,
Mm.
but they've got these proposed amendments
Okay.
in the 2025-26 union budget
Right.
that are designed to make it easier for private companies to get involved.
And the hope is that this will bring in a lot more investment.
Yeah, they're estimating it could unlock something like $26 billion
Wow.
in new investments,
Yeah.
which would be massive.
Yeah, and we're already seeing some of the big Indian companies
Yeah.
kind of stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
The report mentioned some pretty big investment plans.
Yeah, companies like the Navin Jindal Group and NTPC,
Right.
they're announcing multi-billion-dollar investments.
Yeah, in nuclear power.
It's a good sign.
It shows confidence.
Yeah, it shows that they believe in this.
Yeah, for the long haul.
And that's a real turning point, I think.
Okay, so they're building more reactors.
Yeah.
But they're also looking at some pretty futuristic technologies,
Right.
right?
They're not just sticking with the old stuff.
Yeah.
They're looking at fast breeder reactors,
Right.
molten salt reactors,
Yeah.
high-temperature gas-cooled reactor.
Yeah, it's quite a portfolio.
Yeah, it's a very advanced portfolio.
It is.
And what's interesting is it's a diverse approach. Like, they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
The fast breeder reactors, FBRs,
Mhm.
those are key to their three-stage nuclear program,
Right.
which is all about, long-term energy independence.
Right.
And they're using their thorium reserves, which they have a lot of.
Mhm.
Unlike regular reactors, which use uranium,
Yeah.
FBRs actually create more fuel than they use.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a sustainable fuel cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the molten salt reactors, MSRs.
Yeah.
They're even more efficient with fuel.
Right.
And they can use thorium directly,
Wow.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you've got the high-temperature gas-cooled reactors.
Yeah, the HTGRs.
HTGRs.
Yeah.
Those can do more than just electricity.
Okay, like what?
Like, they can produce hydrogen,
Oh, yeah.
which is a big deal for the clean energy transition.
Right, right.
So they're really thinking ahead.
Yeah, and it's not just about their own research, is it?
No, that they're collaborating internationally, too. Like the report said, they're
Yeah.
working with Russia, the U.S., France. It's not just about the current technology, it's about the next generation stuff, too.
Okay.
So they're doing joint research
Yeah,
to speed up development of these advanced reactors.
it makes sense. It's smart to learn from each other.
Absolutely.
And the report mentioned something about the prototype fast breeder reactor
Yeah, the PFBR.
at Kelpacum, right?
Yeah, they've started loading the core.
That sounds like a big deal.
It is. It's a huge milestone for
Yeah.
their three-stage program.
Right.
It shows that they're becoming real experts
Yeah.
in this very complex technology.
Yeah. Very impressive.
So they're not just talking, they're actually doing it.
Okay, so all of this investment, all this technology,
Yeah.
it's got to be driven by something, right?
Right. It's not just for fun.
No. I mean, the report clearly says that India's power demand is exploding.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge factor.
Right.
Their power demand is projected to grow by like 7%.
Every year.
Yeah, every year until 2027.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot, and nuclear is a good way to meet that demand.
Yeah.
It's reliable, it's low carbon,
Right.
and with India's population and their economic growth, that demand is only going to go up.
Yeah, no kidding.
So it's not just about keeping the lights on today.
Right.
It's about making sure they have enough energy in the future.
Yeah, energy security
Exactly, and reducing their reliance on, the global markets.
for fossil fuels.
Yeah, which can be really unpredictable.
Yeah, oil, gas, coal, all over the place.
Totally.
Price-wise, geopolitically, it's a mess.
It's a mess, yeah.
So with nuclear, at least with the uranium supply chain,
Yeah.
you've got more stability.
More control, more independence.
Right.
It's a strategic advantage.
Big time. And the report also talked about how all these big investors
Yeah.
are getting interested in India's nuclear sector.
Mm-hmm.
Institutional investors, hedge funds,
Yep.
sovereign wealth funds.
The big player.
Yeah, the big players.
Yeah.
And they're seeing it as a stable, long-term investment.
Yeah. I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
It means they see this as a mature program
Hmm.
with real potential
Right.
long-term projects,
Yeah.
predictable revenue streams,
Mhm.
stable returns.
Right. And the government's backing it all up.
Yeah, strong government support,
Yeah.
clear policies.
Right.
That makes a big difference for investors.
Yeah, for sure. And then they've got these other initiatives
Right.
like the nuclear infrastructure bonds
Yeah.
and the special economic zones for nuclear manufacturing.
Those are important pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, so the bonds, those will help finance these huge projects.
Yeah, a dedicated financing mechanism.
And the SEZs,
Yeah.
those are about creating a whole ecosystem for domestic manufacturing.
Right, reduce those import dependencies.
Right, build up their own expertise.
Attract more investment.
Yeah, it's all very strategic.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we get too deep into all the tech stuff, maybe we should just back up a bit
Right.
and talk about the basics of nuclear energy.
Okay, good idea.
For anyone who might not be familiar,
Yeah, the fundamental.
we're basically talking about the energy inside an atom.
Right, in the nucleus, the very core of the atom.
Yeah.
That's where all that energy is stored. Protons, neutrons, all bound together by these incredibly strong forces.
Right.
And figuring out how to release that energy,
Yeah.
that's the key to nuclear power.
And the main way we do that right now is with this process called fission.
Ooh, right, splitting atoms.
Yeah.
So you have a neutron.
Okay.
It hits the nucleus of a heavy atom, usually uranium-235.
Right.
That makes it unstable.
Right.
And it splits into two smaller atoms.
Okay.
And when that happens,
Yeah.
a huge amount of energy is released.
Wow.
Heat, radiation,
Mm.
and more neutrons.
Okay.
And those neutrons can then hit other uranium atoms.
Yeah.
And that's what creates the chain reaction, which is what keeps the whole process going.
Yeah. Yeah. And that chain reaction is carefully controlled.
Oh, absolutely. Very carefully controlled.
Right. In a reactor
Yeah.
to generate that steady heat,
Mm-hmm.
which then makes steam.
Yeah.
And that spins the turbines to make electricity.
The whole process.
Yeah. The report also mentioned fusion,
Right.
which is how the sun works.
Yeah, fusion is the ultimate energy source.
But it doesn't sound like we're quite there yet.
Not quite. Yeah, it's a much tougher nut to crack.
Yeah. It's a much bigger challenge.
Yeah, to get it to work in a controlled way
Right.
on a scale that we can actually use.
Right. For power plants and stuff.
Yeah, so for now, fission is the way to go.
Okay, so fission, and the fuel we use is uranium.
Right, uranium.
It's natural,
Yeah,
but it's non-renewable.
right.
And it's specifically the uranium-235 that we need,
Yeah, that's the one that's easily fissile.
meaning it splits easily.
Yeah, you hit it with a neutron and boom.
Okay.
Okay.
So uranium
Yeah.
itself is actually pretty common.
Yeah, more common than you might think.
The report said it's like 100 times more abundant than silver.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but
The U-235, the stuff we actually need,
yeah, the good stuff.
that's pretty rare.
Yeah, less than 1% of natural uranium.
Okay.
So we have to enrich it.
Right, to increase the concentration.
Yeah, which is a whole other process.
Right, so uranium isn't super scarce,
No.
but the stuff we can actually use for fission is...
Right, and that requires special technology.
Yeah, to extract and enrich it.
Exactly.
But even with all that,
Yeah.
nuclear fuel is incredibly energy dense.
Oh, yeah, incredibly.
Right.
Like 1 kilogram of U-235
Yeah.
can produce 1,000,000 times more energy than a kilogram of coal.
Wow. 1,000,000 times.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
That's crazy.
It's the most energy-dense fuel we know of.
What does that mean, practically speaking?
Well, it means you need a lot less fuel
Okay.
to power a reactor for a long time, and it means a much smaller footprint, okay, compared to other energy sources.
Yeah, like solar and wind.
Right, which need tons of space.
Yeah, huge solar farms, massive wind farms.
Yeah.
Nuclear, you can get a lot of power from a much smaller area.
Right, which is good for the environment, right?
Absolutely. Less land use, less impact.
Okay, so zooming out to the big picture.
Okay.
The report's really saying that nuclear is crucial
Yeah.
for decarbonizing our energy systems.
Right.
And for making sure we've got secure energy supplies.
It's two birds with one stone.
Yeah, and a lot of people are starting to recognize that.
It's becoming more and more mainstream.
Yeah, so while renewables, like solar and wind, are obviously important,
Yeah, super important.
they can't do it all on their own.
Right, they have their limitations.
Like what?
Well, they're intermittent.
Meaning they're not always on.
Yeah, the sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow.
Right, so you can't always count on them.
Exactly. But nuclear power plants, They can run 24/7.
Yeah, baseload power.
Yeah, baseload power, always there when you need it.
No matter the weather,
Doesn't matter if it's sunny or cloudy, windy or calm,
right?
they just keep chugging along.
And the report mentioned this thing called capacity factor,
Yeah.
which is basically how often a power plant is actually producing electricity.
Right, like what percentage of the time it's running at full capacity?
And for nuclear, it's super high.
Oh yeah, like 90% or even higher.
Wow, so they're pretty much always on.
Yeah, they're workhorses.
That's amazing.
And the other big thing,
Yeah,
no carbon emissions.
right. Unlike fossil fuels.
Totally. So much cleaner.
Yeah, way better for the climate.
Absolutely. It's a key part of the fight against climate change.
And then there's the whole energy security thing,
Right.
relying on uranium.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have to get it from other countries.
Yeah.
It's still more stable than oil or gas.
Way more stable, less geopolitical risk.
Yeah. Oil prices are always going up and down.
Exactly.
And you never know what's going to happen with, Russia or the Middle East.
Yeah. It's a constant source of uncertainty.
Yeah, but with uranium,
Yeah.
it's more predictable.
You can make long-term agreements,
Right.
secure your supply.
Yeah, reduce your vulnerability.
Exactly. It's about having more control over your energy future.
Okay, let's talk more about these SMRs.
Okay, the small modular reactors.
Yeah, the report was really excited about them.
There's a lot of buzz around them.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
Yeah, they have some serious advantages.
Over the traditional big reactors.
Yeah, the big ones take forever to build.
Yeah, like 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, something like that.
But these SMRs,
Yeah.
much faster.
3 to 5 years.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It's huge.
Yeah,
From an investment perspective, it's a game changer.
right. Less money up front.
Yeah, lower capital investment.
And you can build them in modules.
Yeah, that's the whole idea.
So you can scale them to fit your needs.
Exactly.
So if you need a lot of power,
yeah,
you can just build more modules.
cluster them together.
Right. And if you only need a little bit,
Yeah.
you just build a smaller setup.
Oh, it makes them more versatile
Way more versatile.
than these giant reactors.
Yeah. The big ones are kind of inflexible. You
Yeah.
have to go all in.
Yeah, yeah.
But with SMRs, you can customize it.
And they're good for remote areas, too.
Yeah. Places where a big reactor wouldn't make sense.
Right, like islands or something.
Exactly.
And the report said that global investment in SMRs is going to be huge.
Yeah. Hundreds of billions of dollars per year by 2040.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a major global trend.
Yeah.
And India wants to be a part of it.
Right, they're investing heavily in R&D.
20,000 crore.
Yeah.
And they want to have 5 of their own SMRs by 2033.
That's ambitious.
Very ambitious.
But it sounds like they're smart about it.
Yeah, they're not starting from scratch.
Right.
They're using their experience with PHWRs.
The pressurized heavy water reactors.
Yeah, they've got a lot of experience with those.
Mm.
So they're basically adapting that technology to make it modular.
That makes sense.
It's a smart way to leverage their existing knowledge.
Yeah, and it should speed things up.
Definitely, and reduce costs.
So the modular approach, the faster deployment.
3 to 5 years versus 10 to 15?
Yeah, huge difference.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
And then the safety features, too.
Right, these SMRs often have passive cooling systems.
Meaning they don't need pumps or anything.
Yeah, they just rely on natural forces.
Wow, that's cool.
And some of them can even be built underground.
Really.
Yeah, which is even safer.
And less visible, I guess.
Yeah, less of an eyesore.
Right.
So all of this puts India in a really good position.
Yeah.
Not just to use SMRs themselves,
Right.
but maybe even to export them.
To become a supplier.
Yeah, a global supplier of this technology.
Wow, that would be quite a shift.
Yeah, from buyer to seller.
Yeah, very cool. Now, the report also had this whole section on global trends
Yeah, the big picture.
in nuclear energy.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a real resurgence happening.
Absolutely. After a bit of a lull,
Yeah, worldwide.
nuclear's back.
In a big way.
And the market is huge.
Yeah, growing all the time.
And it's being driven by this need for, clean and reliable power.
Right. The two things we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah, coming full circle.
Yeah, and the numbers are pretty impressive.
Over 410 reactors operating globally.
Wow.
And record-breaking generation expected in 2025.
So lots of activity, lots of investments.
Yeah, it's a real boom.
And it's happening all over the world.
Yeah, Japan is restarting reactors.
Okay.
France is finishing up maintenance on their fleet.
Mm.
China, India, South Korea, Europe, they're all building new plants.
So even though some countries are still phasing out nuclear,
Yeah, there are a few holdouts.
the overall trend is growth.
Definitely, expansion is the name of the game.
And nuclear is already a big part of the clean energy mix.
Almost 10% of global electricity.
Wow.
And the second largest source of low-carbon power.
After hydro.
Yeah, hydro is still number 1. but nuclear is catching up.
And there are tons of reactors under construction.
63 at the end of 2024,
Wow.
adding over 70 gigawatts of capacity.
That's a lot.
Yeah, biggest expansion since the 90s.
Wow. And it's not just new reactors. They're extending the life of existing ones, too.
Yeah, over 60 reactors in the past 5 years.
So squeezing more out of what we already have.
Yeah, making them last longer.
That's smart.
It's cost effective.
Yeah, and there's this international coalition
Yeah.
trying to triple nuclear capacity by 2050.
That's a big goal.
It is.
But it shows the level of commitment.
Yeah, and investment is surging, too.
Up 50% since 2020.
Wow.
Over $60 billion a year now.
So nuclear is definitely having a moment.
It's a global renaissance.
And India is right in the thick of it.
Yeah, they're not missing out.
The report had this table
Yeah.
showing current and prospective capacity.
For different regions.
Yeah, and India's numbers were interesting.
Yeah, they're at 8 gigawatts now, but they're aiming for 32.
So they got big plans.
Huge plans.
Yeah, quadrupling their capacity.
That's a major jump.
It is.
And while China's numbers are even bigger,
Right, they're in a whole other league.
yeah, they're building like crazy.
But India's growth is still really impressive.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It shows how serious they are about this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the report also went into this whole
Yeah.
overview of the nuclear energy value chain.
Right, the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, from mining the uranium
Yeah.
all the way to dealing with the spent fuel.
It's a long and complex process.
It is. Lots of moving parts.
Yeah, specialized expertise at every stage.
So first you got to mine the uranium ore.
Yeah, dig it out of the ground
Then you convert and enrich it.
to get that U-235 concentration up.
Right. Then you make the fuel.
Yeah, fuel fabrication.
Turning it into pellets and rods.
Ready for the reactor.
And then the actual power generation.
Yeah, the heart of it all.
Different types of reactors.
Right, PWRs, PHWRs, SMRs.
Yeah. And once you got the electricity,
Yeah.
you got to transmit and distribute it.
Get it to the people who need it.
Yeah. And because nuclear plants are so reliable.
High capacity factor.
Right.
They're great for providing that baseload power.
Keeping the grid stable.
Yeah, keeping the lights on.
And then there's the whole issue of spent fuel.
Right. What do you do with it?
Yeah. Got to manage it safely.
Yeah, it's radioactive.
Right. And eventually you have to decommission the plants.
Yeah.